Good evening all, evening councillors, staff and members of the public. Good to see so many of you here. Thank you all for coming. I would like to acknowledge Tanya Jackson, the Shire President, who's here, and also our Youth Mayor, Sean Smith, as well as the rest of our Youth Council who are here this evening. Thank you all very much for coming. There are no apologies tonight, and Mayor Brennan is on leave. I have one declaration of interest from Councillor Brown referring to the motion on notice as he is owner of some land adjoining the Ring Road. He's a financial interest, so he'll leave the room for the debate and discussion. Don't believe there's any public questions. Have somebody, sorry, skip one. Could I have somebody move the minutes of the previous meeting? Thank you, Councillor Cook. Seconder. Councillor McKerry, thank you. I'll put that. All in favour? That's carried. The minutes of the advisory committee is there. Could I have somebody move that? Thank you. Councillor Cook and Councillor Morris. I'll put that. All in favour? Thank you. There are no petitions, are there, councillors? We have one request for a deputation from our Youth Mayor, Mr. Sean Smith. Those are in favour? Thank you. And we'll call you up, Mr. Smith, when that item comes to us. Could I have somebody move Councillor Cook's delegation report? Councillor McKerry, Councillor Brown, all those in favour? That's carried, thank you. And thank you, Councillor Cook, for that. Coming up this evening, councillors, I have 10.11 and 10.52. Is there anything else? Councillor Steele? 10.12 and 10.13. 10.12 and 10.13. Sure. All good. So that just leaves 10.51. Can we have somebody move that on block? Thank you, Councillor Cook. Councillor Hayward. All those in favour? Thank you. So 10.11. Mr. Smith? You have 5 minutes. Thanks, Sean.
Good evening to Deputy Mayor and councillors. It's my pleasure as the Youth Mayor and on behalf of the Youth Advisory Council to represent the youth community of Bunbury and the broader community on this matter. Today the Youth Advisory Council is recommending that Council endorse the following. 1, to endorse Luciana Park as the most suitable site for a youth precinct subject to public comment of no less than 14 days. 2, to select the Youth Advisory Council Committee as the steering group for additional community engagement relating to the youth precinct. On your screens is the location in question. The recommendation from the committee has come from discussions with young people, community members, and a community consultation conducted by city officers in October 2018. The consultation was an interactive social pinpoint in which 177 map pins were recorded with 426 individual interactions. The proposed site had a total number of 86 pins, and if you look on the map as well, it had about 99 pins in that rough area. A working group consisting of 2 YAC committee members, 1 member of the community, and 3 council staff then conducted a site assessment matrix considering a variety of factors around the top 6 site locations which are listed there above. The top site was rated with a 75% average rating as a suitable site for the location. The Youth Advisory Council then took this to a special committee meeting in January, and it has a full support as the proposed location for any future youth precinct. So why a youth precinct and why the Youth Advisory Council to be the steering group behind this development? A youth precinct has been identified by the community and council as one of the top 5 projects for the city to undertake. As a representative of the community of Yak, I strongly believe that in creating opportunities for young people in the Bunbury and the surrounding regions. As of the 2016 census, from the ages of 10 to 24-year-olds, referred to commonly as youth by all forms of government, it make up about 16.8% of the Bunbury's population. That was a number at the time of about 5,360 people. And those people mostly do not have much of a voice and have us as Yak to represent them. There is currently not a space located centrally within the Bunbury CBD dedicated for young people to gather, socialise, partake in community activities that is accessible, free, safe, desirable, and caters for the needs of the broad youth community as a whole. It is my strong belief that as a community, we need to invest into the opportunities for young people to be positive members of the community. We believe the location of Luciana Park, which is prime land in the CBD, is a perfect location for a youth precinct. The location is already zoned for recreational activities, so it doesn't need rezoning. The site is currently mostly unused, except for 3 major events a year, which is Australia Day Skyfest, the circus, and the recent four-wheel drive show that has been there the last 2 times. I've been informed by city officers that it is quite feasible to logistically move or shuffle those events that have been held in that location before. Potential elements of a youth precinct, as at this stage we are just proposing a location. We are not presenting a design concept. That comes in the next stage through community consultation, and once we know the space that we have, that informs the design and what's going to be there. But some potential elements will include a skate park, a parkour course, basketball, tennis/squash wall, a play space, barbecue and family facilities, and stuff to that nature. As an entrance to our city over the Kambana Drive Bridge, what a statement that would make to visitors and locals. That Bunbury embraces and celebrates its young people, gives a space for them to grow and prosper as young people in the city's present and future. Encouraging more young people and young families to embrace Bunbury as a place that they can grow and be contributors to the Bunbury community should be one of Council's highest priorities, in my opinion. I hope that Council will consider the recommendation and the Youth Advisory Council to move the development forward to its next phase. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Perfect timing. Councillor Warnock.
Could I just ask a procedural question, Mr Acting there,
Sure.
before we start?
Yeah.
So will the council have the opportunity to review this after the community consultation period in line with having a bit further discussion about master planning that whole area around Luciana Park?
I'll refer to the CEO to answer that.
Yes, through you, Mr Mayor. So part 2 of the executive recommendation requires that officers bring a report back to Council with submissions received for Council to give formal consideration. And at the same time, it would be our intention that we would advise Council of the progression towards design work through a consultancy, and to also look at how that might work in with a master plan of that area, because at this stage there has been no master planning undertaken of that locality.
Thank you, CEO. Have somebody move the executive recommendation.
So can I just ask a question before we do that?
Sure.
I'm just a little bit confused from the representation from the junior mayor or youth mayor. Now, we already have a community tennis court over the road. So are we suggesting that we're going to build another tennis court in that area? Or is this just adjacent?
Councillor Stack, this recommendation is to, as the CEO just outlined, is that they will then take all the information in and come back to Council with some kind of plan. If you want to add to that at all, Mr CEO?
It's a blank canvas at this stage, Mr Mayor.
So there are plenty of options that can be discovered. So I'll ask somebody to move that executive recommendation. Councillor Morris, I saw you on your feet. Happy to move that, Councillor Morris. Councillor Hayward, you seconding? Councillor Morris.
It's been a long time coming. In 1999, when I was standing in this council chamber, we were taking a look at the development of the first skate park within Bunbury. And in fact, lot 681 was actually looked at in relation to that skate park, but decision was made to put it on its present location. Watching the Yak as a group of young people and working diligently through the process of just looking at a position. We're not taking a look at what will actually be in that youth precinct yet, only the position. This is what these people have actually gone through and taken a look at. I think it's time for the council to take a proactive step in relation to endorsing this as a location and putting it out to public consultation. Then it comes back to council, and we can actually then take a look in what would actually go within the youth precinct. My congratulations to the Yak and to all the members. They did it in an extremely professional way and one that makes me very proud. Thank you.
Councillor Howard.
Thanks very much, Mr Mayor. Just councillors like to certainly acknowledge the work that individual councillors have done on getting this project forward. Certainly Councillor Steele and Councillor Kelly and others I know that have been very supportive. Others have been on Yak and things have been working towards getting this to this stage. So I think we've come a significant way in a relatively short space of time in local government terms, although that may seem like a long time to the community at times. I think it's very important that we get this through tonight and get on with the job of being able to deliver this as soon as we can. And I think, I think I certainly encourage all councillors to support it on that basis. Thank you.
So, is there a speaker against this executive recommendation, councillors?
Mr Deputy Mayor, I just want to make a suggestion for an amendment to part 3.
Go ahead.
I'd like to tack on the words including the naming of the precinct onto the part 3. Just those words.
I'm pretty happy to...
Yeah.
I'm quite happy to accept that as part of the initial recommendation if the two, the mover and the seconder are happy with that.
I also have a amendment too, sir.
So that becomes the procedural motion that it hasn't changed the recommendation in a huge thing, so that mover and seconder are happy with that. Councillor Steck?
Thanks. I just want to ask the mover and the seconder to make the public comment for at least more than 30 days. Because if it gets to 14, you've ticked the box. It says no less than 14 days. And I don't want that less than 14 days there.
I'll ask you to move that as an alternate, I think, Councillor Steck. Is there a seconder for Councillor Steck's alternate motion? Councillor Steele? Oh, sorry, I could have asked. So the alternate recommendation is that basically that's changed to 30 days. Councillor Steck.
Sorry, Mr Mayor, just a quick question, if I may. Just running through, if we could just get some advice from the CEO as to what difference that will make, if any, at all, to the process or the progress.
Mr CEO.
Yes, through Mr Mayor, when we had put no less than 14 days, we were quite clear that once we started the campaign, we needed to give, I guess, enough community saturation, so make sure people got the opportunity to comment. We probably would have gone out for 21 days or around about that term, but there's no objection from staff in terms of 30 days. It just pushes out the return to council perhaps by a week or one more round of council meetings.
Councillor Steele, anything to add?
I would have been happy with 21, 28.
Okay, so we're dealing with this alternate in front of us. Might want to just change that, Greg, to the word to 30. Is there a speaker against this? Yes, Councillor.
That timeline, if we're extending it, does it interfere with anything to do with our budget for 1920? I wouldn't like to see that this comes in after the budget. So can I just get some word from the CEO to make sure that our budget process for 1920 falls within the timeline that's outlined there.
CEO?
Through Mr Mayor, yes, it will fit within that. Council will still need to be able to consider any other options within the budget process.
Okay, so we're dealing with this in front of us. Was there a speaker against this? No, I'll put this alternate recommendation. Yes. The amendment, sorry. The amendment. I'll put that all in favour. Those against? Okay, so this becomes our new motion. So back to where we were. We're looking for a speaker against this. If there is none, I'll put this to a vote. Ms. Councillor Morris, is there anything you'd like to close? I'll put this executive recommendation as it stands. All those in favour? As carried unanimously. Thank you very much, councillors. Moving to 10.1.2. Do you have a question, Councillor Steele?
My question relates into where our youth advisory live. I understand as councillors we have to live within the city of Bunbury. I'm just wondering why our youth advisory council also don't have to live in the city of Bunbury, or can I please have that clarified?
Through the CEO.
Through you, Mr Mayor, the current terms of reference have still, I think, always contained the Bunbury Geograph region. Is that correct? I'm sort of now... We've accepted nominations for the duration of the Youth Advisory Council from representatives from the Bunbury Geograph region.
So does that answer Councillor Steele's question in relation to is it in the Bunbury Municipality District or the Greater Region District?
CEO?
Well, if I can, the Youth Advisory Council is hosted by the Council through the City of Bunbury. The membership has been able to be drawn from the Bunbury Geograph region.
I'll ask somebody to move the executive recommendation. Thank you, Councillor Morris. Thank you, Councillor Kelly. Is there likely to be any debate? There will.
I'm not debating, but I will be voting against it because I do think we have a lot of youth within our cities that we can actually draw on.
Councillor Morris, anything to add?
One of the reasons why we take a look at having students or young people outside the city limits is because we have a university within our campus, within our city, I should say, and we have people who are attending that university from outside our city location. Same way also with people who might live in the city and attend high schools outside the city, such as Grammar and other private colleges or high schools. So effectively, we are a regional city. And because we represent the youth of the region per se, because we are a regional city, hence the membership includes outside our city limits. Thank you.
Councillor Kelly.
Yes, thanks, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I think the important thing to recognise at the moment is that other advisory committees of council also include people who live outside the city limits. I know that both the Heritage Advisory Committee and also the Community Access Committee have members who live beyond our border. Having said that, Councillor Steele makes a point, and that point needs to be acknowledged, and it may well be that following this process we may wish to refer this to the Policy Committee for consideration and further discussion, which would include all of the councillors as well. So I'm very happy to pass this or to vote for the committee recommendation on the basis that we do have a precedent for outside residents sitting on our committees. However, at the same time, it is worthwhile a review. Thank you.
Speaker against? Yeah. I'll put that recommendation. All those in favour? Those against? Still one against. That's carried. Moving to 10.1.3. Ask for a mover, Councillor Morris, and a seconder, Councillor McCleary. Do you have a question, Councillor Steele Sampson?
I would like to know how many of our Youth Advisory Council actually do live within the city of Bunbury then, please.
I'll ask the CEO if he could answer that question. I'm not sure, you might have to defer that.
That's a deferral. If we don't have that information, we can take that on notice. So it's not sure if staff are looking that up, or are we taking it on notice? We've taken it on
Take
notice.
that on notice. Councillor Morris.
I do have an amendment I'd like to add, number 2 to this. Number 2. In the event of a vacancy arising on the YAC between now and October of 2019 elections, agree that the vacancy be filled by the nominee who ranks second on the assessment matrix shown on CRUSC-1.
Do we have a seconder to that amendment? Councillor McCleary also. Councillor Morris.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. The reason for this amendment is that we have approximately 2 more meetings of YAC, and there could very well be, if students do not attend X number of meetings, the vacancy, the position is considered to be vacant. And it would actually speed up the process in relation to filling that vacancy. And in your pink papers, and I won't go into detail into the pink paper, but the person that came in second was highly qualified and had experience in relation to needs of the youth, that if you take a look at the matrix that this person had in terms of qualifications, I think that you agree with me that this is a person that YAC would actually need. Thank you.
Councillor McCleary, yes.
Thank you. Youth, and I'm definitely for this because it streamlines everything, but youth have a tendency to travel and not to be here. So I would like another terminology ranked second. Could someone assist me with changing that terminology, so if that second person is no longer here because they may have gone to uni or they may have gone somewhere else, that we can look at, the executive can look at the next one.
Next available ranked.
Ranked. Okay. Is there another word that we can use instead of second, please? Because that locks us in, and that would mean that we would then have to start the whole process again if that person who was second ranked was away, gone, disinterested.
Hang on up there, Greg. Can you word something up that in terms of the highest ranked available candidate? Sounds pretty good. That looks pretty good. Happy with that, Councillor McCleary. Councillor Morris, you're happy with that also? Okay. Is there a speaker against this amendment? I'll put that. All in favour? That's carried. Which becomes our new recommendation. So we're up to... That was an amendment, wasn't it? Yeah. Oh, we dealt with it. Okay, that's carried and that is done. (10.5.2) councillors requires an absolute majority. Could I have somebody move that one, please? Thank you, Councillor McCleary. Seconder, Councillor Steele. Thank you. Likely to be any debate, councillors? I'll put that. All in favour? That's carried. Okay. This brings us to our motion notice. Thank you, Councillor Brown. Councillor Hayward, would you like to move your motion on notice?
Yes, I would.
Do I have a seconder for this? Councillor Mulcahy. Councillor Hayward.
Thanks very much. Councillors, as you know, this Bunbury Outer Ring Road has been a concern to a lot of us individually and as a council, and also a concern to many of our neighbouring councils as well. The idea of tonight's motion on notice, which I originally brought to Council, to the Mayor back in December, was to give us the opportunity to have a debate tonight and actually come up with a position that the Bunbury City Council can rely on, and the Mayor and others negotiating on behalf of the Council can rest upon. That the City of Bunbury only speaks through its motions and its resolutions, and we have currently no resolution at all on the books for the Bunbury Outer Ring Road. Unlike our neighbours in Harvey, who do already have resolutions in relation to the Bunbury Outer Ring Road, we don't have any. So whilst I commend Mayor Brennan for the work that he and the CEO have been doing in terms of advocating on behalf of the City of Bunbury, I think it's really important that we firm up the City's position and that the councillors in this room have the opportunity to debate what their view about the Outer Ring Road is and its progression so far. So there are a number of points. First is to confirm that we support the construction of an Outer Ring Road. I personally support the Outer Ring Road. I can see a need to get heavy vehicles off our suburban streets, and I can see the benefit of taking through traffic out of Bunbury to allow Bunbury to grow without that extra congestion being built, which ultimately prolongs the life of the assets, the road assets we have within our city. So I think that we do support it, I certainly do, and I'd encourage us tonight to make that decision. However, we should reject the proposed preferred northern interchange option as presented by Main Roads to the City of Bunbury. The interchange option as presented to us effectively brings an end to the Forest Highway and its journey to Bunbury, diverts that away from Bunbury down the Outer Ring Road and puts motorists heading to Bunbury through a convoluted loop-the-loop system and heading south and heading north breaks the two-lane non-stop access we have to the city, to and away from the city. Heading north, you'll have to stop at a roundabout and give way. Now, I don't think that's acceptable. We're supposed to be the second city of Western Australia. We have a lot of growing to do, and we're in an important place, and our community is an important community, and we need to make sure that our city has good road infrastructure. I haven't been able to find anywhere where the main road into a city is used to bypass the city without it having its own proper entry statement, if you like, or road that leads into the city. Now, I've been told, Main Roads told us during that discussion that Mandurah, of course, was bypassed. Well, the road into Mandurah still exists from Perth. You can still get down the old road. You can still get down the old road from the north, and you can still get down the old road from the south. On top of that, there are about 5 separate intersections which will take you back to Mandurah along the way. We have some significant problems with the Outer Ring Road's design. Problems that if you miss the convoluted turn and you live in Treendale, not that any of our people do, but you do live in Treendale, you can't get back to Treendale until you get to Willinge Drive. And then you get to turn right and drive all the way back through town, all the way back. I mean, that's crazy. That's craziness. There are issues around the suburb just to the north there, Meadows Landing, with Main Roads proposing to push truck traffic through there instead of utilising the Outer Ring Road. I know that's an issue for our friends in Harvey. We need our own entrance, and at the moment we have a 4-lane highway, 2 lanes directly taking you to Bunbury. Ultimately, whilst we welcome the Outer Ring Road, we need 2 lanes that continue to go to Bunbury. What we don't want is to have a single exit that's shared with us, Australind, Eden, Burracup, every other destination as well. That's single lane. Main Roads are on the record as saying that there's no reduction in access. Well, in fact, the 2-lane highway turns to a single lane. That, to me, is a clear reduction in access, simply by 50%. And I don't think I don't think that should be acceptable to us either. I think that we need to be very, very clear with main roads. Mr Mayor, can I ask for an extension of time, please?
I'll put that. All in favour? Carry on, Councillor Hayward.
Thank you very much. So I don't think that's acceptable. Our journey with main roads in terms of the City of Bunbury has been difficult. We had a briefing session where they came along and said, this is what we're doing. There was no opportunity really for us to give any meaningful feedback in that process. We've tried to engage them as a city since then in terms of inviting them back and trying to get back. As you know, there have been a number of appointments that have been cancelled, and we haven't had that opportunity to do so. Ultimately, we asked to speak to some higher-ups in the department, if you like, and there was a meeting between the Mayor and the Minister, and we're thankful for that, and I understand the Mayor was able to put our position. But the reality is we need to get onto this early, because the process of designing these things is massive. As you understand, the land that's being put aside needs to be go through an approvals process for environmental checks, and they are already doing all of those things based on the current plan that they have, which I think is absolutely unsatisfactory for us. So I think it's important that we send a very clear message and speak by our resolutions very firmly that that is not acceptable. We haven't seen the southern interchange yet because there's some issues down there that our friends at Capel are dealing with. In terms of the other two areas, to instruct the CEO to request that Main Roads redesign the proposal with us as a primary route and dual lane access. I can't understand why they can't be equal, at the very least equal access points. And also to ask the CEO to contact other local government authorities with a view to holding a roundtable discussion between our local governments in order for us to be able to give some regional feedback to Main Roads. Main Roads aren't listening to us. The feedback I've got from other shires is that they're in the same boat as us and that they don't feel that they're being listened to. I think the only thing that we can do with Main Roads is group together, have the discussion about what the issues for each of our councils are, and try to come up with some kind of united front that we can take back to put pressure on the state government to do that. Can I also say that in my discussions I've had very good support, and I know that the Mayor has and others from our local member Don Punch, from the member for Collie Preston, Mick Murray, and also from Adele Farina and others. So we're not alone here. We've got some good people going into bat for us, but I think it's important that we draw a line in the sand and tell Main Roads that enough's enough, and we need to. This needs to be sorted out, and we need a proper outcome for the City of Bunbury. So I'd urge you to support each of these motions, or each of the parts of this motion, and hopefully that'll help those other elected members and others that are lobbying for us as well to see that we are very clear about what it is that we want and that what's being proposed is not good enough. Thank you.
Councillor McCleary.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I just wish to validate what Councillor Hayward has said, and I just feel that the Main Roads are railroading us, and we do need to make them just stop for a minute, and the only way you're going to do that is to get people behind you. And the number 4, to ask the CEO to contact other local governments. I know some of you will be thinking, oh, but this has already happened, but I think we need to put it on paper and it needs to be presented. So I would certainly encourage our councillors to vote for this motion. Thank you.
Councillor McCleary. Is there a speaker against this motion? Councillor Kelly.
Mr Deputy Mayor, first may I ask that 1, 2, 3 and 4 be taken separately?
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. I'd like to make a few remarks and then we'll go from there. I intend to support parts 1 and 4. They're no-brainers. Indeed, we ought to be confirming our support for the construction of the Bunbury Outer Ring Road, and 2 and 4, yes, we should be asking for dialogue with our counterparts across the border. Indeed, as everybody knows, we have the Greater Bunbury Region Scheme, which compiles, puts those 4 local governments together, Harvey, Dardanup, Capel and Bunbury. I'm surprised, indeed astounded, that we haven't already been sitting down in a room with the 4 CEOs and the Mayor and the 3 presidents to get this worked out. So 1 and 4 quite happy. However, I'm going to argue that the city is in no position, learnedly, practically or otherwise, to reject what is beyond its area of influence, which is part 2, or instruct the CEO to go forth on what really is a misapplied and idealistic endeavour. Councillor Hayward's statement that the city should make clear that the proposal in its current form is unacceptable and is not in the best interest of the city is currently subjective, and to say the least presumptuous might be a better word, simply because those 4 local government authorities haven't got down to the room to speak to Main Roads about it. And until all of that detail is put to those 4 local government authorities, you can't go off and say, well, we don't like it. We think it's bad, because there are other opinions to be had and they must be put through. So until such time as that discussion has been had, it's undiplomatic and discourteous indeed to progress on the basis of rejection, which is what we're intending to do in part 2. In part 2 and 3, I think we should vote against them on the basis that there's still some processes to go. Ultimately, the idea that the Bunbury Outer Ring Road can be tweaked to attain some sort of come-hither outcome for Bunbury that maintains road safety outcomes, satisfies all in Harvey, Dardanup and Capel, while at the same time achieves best road flow practice, may be just unobtainable. We can't take a position until we've done the work. Incidentally, I believe it's a far better outcome to focus our energy on promoting Bunbury as a destination where people want to leave the Bunbury Outer Ring Road to see something good. And it means that we need to make us a destination. Simply to put up a sign or change a design is worthless if there is no preferred end point. People are going to drive past unless they've got somewhere to go. The political backstory to the current ructions can be told at another time, but the reality is that the bore will be built and interchanges don't get changed because someone somewhere doesn't like the look of it or perceives a disadvantage, particularly when you've got more stakeholders involved than just the city. So maybe there are other forces here, but until such time as there's been a discussion with the neighbours, there's no point in cruelling the approach with demands that put our opposition to something on the board before we even get to talking to them, because we need to contribute to good consultation, and ultimately we've got to address the real issue. The real issue here, councillors, is quite clear. We've got to promote Bunbury as a destination. So finally, the matter served to remind me a little bit of the fable of Chicken Little, because I've heard a lot about what's been happening out there. And Chicken Little, by the way, was spooked by a leaf falling on her tail. And she ran about saying, the sky is falling, the sky is falling. And she spread panic in the yard. I'd say, councillors, the sky is not falling and the world's not coming to an end. The Bunbury Outer Ring Road will be built. Bunbury will continue to build on its attractions to become a destination, and life will go on. So let's not jump to conclusions firstly by saying, oh look, it's all wrong, it's not going to work, without having come to some agreement with our neighbours, and that puts them in the room, as 1 and 4 suggests, and let's go through this in an orderly fashion. So councillors, I will be supporting number 1 and supporting number 4, and I ask that you vote against number 2 and number 3. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Scully. Speaker 4, Councillor Stack.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. I'd just like to say this, is that we all know that we're the first tier of government. We hear what the people say. And we absolutely do have influence over state governments. We did it with amalgamations. We do it with lots of things. So we need to be very clear, this isn't acceptable, and we need our other councillors from other shires to get on board. So vote for the motion. Well done, James.
Councillor Stack, is there a speaker against? Councillor Smith?
Just make a few comments for this motion, Mr Deputy Mayor. May I do that, or have you closed the debate?
I'll allow it, Councillor Smith.
Thank you. All I wanted to say is that this morning, as you all might know, I drove to Perth and back, and we got on the Australian bypass, and we stayed on the Forest Highway till we got to Mounts Bay Road. And I just think that's an important issue that this council should take into account. Now, hopefully I trust Main Roads to do the right thing by us, but that's really the comment I wanted to make, that some of you might be old enough to remember the kerfuffle over building the Forest Highway, and the nightmare it was to get to Perth when you had to go through Mandurah and stop every traffic light from here practically to Perth. That was an economic deterrent as well as an irritation. So they're just a couple of comments I wanted to make. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. We'll ask again if there's any speakers against. Councillor Hayward, please close.
Thanks very much. I think we need to be clear that this is Main Road's preferred option, that they have made that clear to us. It's not a case of us thinking about the sky falling in. This is what they're proposing, and there are some issues. There are some real issues with this. We have tried to go through a process of giving that feedback to Main Roads, and frankly it's been ignored. We've asked for meetings with them, they've been ignored, and they haven't eventuated. I've been to the regional roads group meeting. Again, Main Roads were put on notice that a number of shires weren't happy. Nothing's come of that. I think it's time for us to take a bit more firmer action. There are other issues about where the fast train will go. The answer is underground if you ask Main Roads. I'm not sure, that's a case of deferring the cost to somebody else. I asked Main Roads about this design and about why you had to stop at the roundabout. And they said, oh, well, what you would do somewhere else is put a ramp over it and you wouldn't have to stop. I said, but you're never going to be able to do that here if you build this. And they agreed. So there are some technical issues with this that I think need to be worked out. I think the strongest thing that we can do is reject this option. There are other options. They have two other ones designed, including one that has two-way access to Bunbury, two-lane access to Bunbury, and perhaps they need to consider those ones. But we need to lobby on behalf of our people, and I think that there's no question we need to promote ourselves as a destination, but that's a different story. We certainly don't want to make it any more difficult to get here. So I'd urge you all to support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. So I will take these separately. So all in favour of number 1. That is carried. Thank you. Those in favour for number 2. Those against? 2 against. Those in favour of number 3. Those against? 3 against. Those in favour of number 4. It's carried unanimously. Yes, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, could I just confirm that you announced that each of those individual ones were carried?
Yes. Thank you, Councillor Brown. Welcome back for the closure. I declare this meeting closed at 6:13. Thank you very much for all attending.